Hello. As I mentioned to you that we completed the summary of Gardner, and to make things a little easier, I would start doing the comprehension one by one. The reasons are, when you do the comprehension specifically, this is going to address from the examination point of view. And second thing is, it is going to be something which is going to help you understand the whole story easily. And third is, if you have any kind of questions, you can then and there ask, which particular aspect you have not understood. So these are the advantages. However, when we get back to the offline classes, it will be easier because when I have the textbook and when I have all of you in front of me, the explanation becomes easier. And I'm sure, how much ever I try my best to make you all understand through these online classes, all of you would agree that, the offline classes are the best. Let us hope that, things will get better in the days to come, and the government will ease the aspect of offline classes, and it would be very, very comfortable to do it through the online classes. So, but since we do not have any choice, let us stick on to this mode, and I will start doing this comprehension. Okay, so this is comprehension 1. What qualities of the old man impress the narrator in the chapter of the gardener? What are the qualities? So the qualities are, the old man was tall, he had a long beak-like nose and strong muscular arms. So tall, long beak-like nose, strong muscular arms. And the narrator observed that he was a laborer, overseer, and a philosopher. He found all this in the old man. So this is for 1 marks. Second one, is it a significant factor that the old man came to the garden after walking hundreds of miles? The answer, the old man had come to his farm after walking hundreds of miles to avenge himself, and he succeeded in it. So this is a significant factor. He wanted to feel relieved. Third one, the owner of the garden became lethargic because income of the garden improved dramatically. He had become dependent upon the gardener. There was nothing much left for the owner to do. The answer is, the income of the garden improved dramatically because of the old man. Because the old man, he was so hardworking, so diligent that he did everything. As a result, the income became more and the owner became lethargic and lazy. Next, why did the owner's wife start worrying about the strange ways of her husband? This generally they wouldn't ask you in your 1 mark questions, because this is slightly little longer answer, and such longer answers would not be preferred. However, from the perspective of understanding the lesson, this is useful. The income from the garden increased, but it affected the owner in a very strange way. He became lethargic and shied away from hard work. His life became crowded with colorful events. So the owner's wife became apprehensive, afraid about his adultery and umpty other vices. So his life became colorful, and he started looking at other things which had interested him more than the hard work of working in the garden or doing agriculture. So obviously the wife was very worried. Next, fifth one. When did the old man decide to narrate his story? When the old man noticed the plight or the apprehension of the owner's wife about her husband, he started narrating his story in the evening. So he started telling the story in the evening when the wife was extremely worried. Sixth, Tamanna considers his rival Sangoji Basavaya an important possession because competition helps in the development of an individual. Sangoji Basavaya leads a more colorful life. Rivalry offers new possibilities of life for him. The answer is rivalry offers new possibilities of life for him. Next. No, his name was not Sangoji but Basavaya, told the old man, because he had really forgotten the name. He wanted to keep the identity of his rival a secret. He was fictionalizing his past. The answer is he was fictionalizing his past because he was telling all that happened about his past life through the story. What unique strategy did Tamanna conceive to annihilate Basavaya completely? He composed all his experiences in the form of ballads and sang them. All his poems described the enmity, jealousy and meanness of Basavaya. This was the unique strategy. So the unique strategy was he wanted to tell all the stories, all the pains that he went through the experiences, through ballads and sang them. That is how he talked about the cruelty of Basavaya. Ninth, why does Basavaya start inviting scholars and musicians to his place? He wanted to invest his home with meaning, so he started inviting scholars, poets and musicians to his place. So he wanted to do something more meaningful than Tamanna. So he started doing it. What was Basavaya's ray of hope in his attempt to outwit Tamanna? When Tamanna fell ill, he felt happy. It was a ray of hope for him. Tamanna's disease was his health. So he thought if he could get rid of Tamanna this way, because of the ill health, there is no competition, there is no rivalry, isn't it? There is no ill feeling. So that is how he felt that he could avenge himself. Tamanna decides to give up everything and leave the place because he sees no purpose in living there. He wants to create an impression that he's dead. He wants to put an end to the rivalry. He wants to create an impression that he is dead. That is the reason he leaves everything and just disappears from there. Tamanna forgets his songs and ballads because he finds them futile. He doesn't need them anymore. He avenges himself. He avenges himself. That is the answer. C. 11th one, B is the answer. Okay, I hope you've got it. Let's go to the comprehension 2, which is the long answer. How did the owner's life change after the arrival of the old man? There was an owner of a farm. He had 10 acres of land. He had 10 acres. He was in need of a man who could look after his farm. As desired, an old man came to the farm. He was well versed in agriculture. He knew all about the farms and about the workers. He looked after everything neatly. And after his arrival, the petty thefts in the garden came to an end. because there was a caretaker. The income from the garden increased in leaps and bounds because there is a caretaker and everything is going on smoothly. The plantation expanded. The 10 acres farm grew beyond their imagination. Equally, there was a drastic change in the life of the owner. He became lethargic and didn't do any work. He developed contacts with new friends, and his life had become crowded with colorful events. The owner's wife became very apprehensive about her husband's adultery and other umpty vices because he was gradually getting out of hand, and he was not worried about his plantation, or he was not worried about his wife. All that he wanted to do is something that he finds pleasure in. So that is the answer. Second one. What advice did the supporters to Tamanna give for getting his land back? As you know, Basavaya had already encroached and taken about 200 acres of land. So Tamanna was worried, and all the friends and people in the village, they told him and advised him a few things. So what did he do? Basavaya was not happy about Tamanna, who had 1,000 acres of land. This was because he had only 800 acres. Basavaya had only 800 acres of land. He asked Tamanna to sell 200 acres, but he didn't. This enraged Basavaya, so went to Tamanna with his people and took 200 acres of land forcibly and had protection by putting a fence. This was known to all. Tamanna had a lot of followers. They suggested various ways to Tamanna of getting his land back. Some suggested him to approach court of law. Others informed him to file a complaint to the police. Some also suggested to manhandle Basavaya and snatch all the property. But Tamanna didn't go for any of these measures, and he had a different plan and a trick. Third one, how did Tamanna react to Basavaya's encroachment of his land? When Basavaya took 200 acres of Tamanna's land forcibly, Tamanna didn't lose his temper. He kept mum and pondered over. Tamanna's followers suggested him various ways to be followed in order to get the land back. For these things, also, Tamanna did not pay any importance or heed. He had a different plan. He composed all his experiences in the form of ballads, songs, and highlighted the cruelty and the meanness of Basavaya. He sang them. Many critics came there. They analyzed the poem, and Tamanna was regarded as the best poet. This again made Basavaya jealous. The fourth one. How did Basavaya try to overcome his humiliation? Basavaya never looked the prosperity of Tamanna. He never, considered that prosperity. He never considered Tamanna to be prosperous because he was always jealous. He always thought that he was better than Tamanna. So he went on doing one or the other thing. He was shrunk in humiliation. Obviously, Tamanna is growing in his reputation, and he is considered to be a gentleman, and Basavaya is supposed to be very cruel and very mean. So he tried to overcome his humiliation by doing these following things. He started filling his life with all kinds of material wealth. Number 1. 2. He got a palatial mansion built for himself. Number 3. He appointed a number of persons just to praise him. Number 4. He bedecked himself with gold, diamonds and other precious stones. He started wearing a lot of gold and diamonds just to feel rich and good. Fifth, his visitors told him that his house looked dull and empty because Tamanna's books were not there. So he started inviting scholars, poets, and musicians to his place. So these are the following ways, these 5 points that Basavaya tried to do in order to overcome the humiliation or the insult. 3. Comprehension 3. The rivalry between Tamanna and Basavaya keeps moving from the visible domain to the invisible. So it moves from something that is seeable to something that is not seeable. How, what, why? Tamanna was a rich farmer. He had comfortable house and all that he wanted. Thousands were at his bidding command. He was totally happy. There was another farmer named Basavaya. He saw all the prosperity of Tamanna. Instead of feeling happy, he felt sad and envied. He followed to do whatever Tamanna did. Ultimately, Tamanna had 1,000 acres of land and Basavaya had only 800 acres. He couldn't bear this. So he asked Tamanna to sell 200 acres of land. But Tamanna didn't agree. Then Basavaya went there with his people and he took 200 acres of land forcibly. Then he put a fence. Tamanna tolerated all this at first. At first he did that, and then his followers suggested various measures to get his land back from Basavaya. All came to know this. It was visible everything was visible to the people that the injustice meted out to Tamanna. Tamanna made plan to annihilate Basavaya. He wrote poems in the form of ballads, expressed his experiences, and also mentioned the cruelty and meanness of Basavaya. He sang all those songs, so the rivalry moved from the visible to the invisible. Many critics came there and analyzed the poems, and Tamanna was felicitated as the best poet of all times. So that is how it moved from visible to invisible domain. Next, how does Tamanna adopt a counter strategy to challenge the material wealth of Basavaya? Tamanna wrote poems and sang them. Many people came to know all about the rivalry. The poems defamed, brought bad name to Basavaya. But Basavaya went on collecting money and appointing people to praise him, which didn't succeed. At this time, Tamanna adopted counter-strategy to challenge the material wealth of Basavaya. Tamanna thought if he continued his rivalry at the level of Basavaya, it would go on offering a stiff competition. So he wanted to separate a song from his body. He knew the human nature. He thought that his death would give him solace, and his death alone could destroy Basavaya. So he gave up everything and started off. That was a sacrifice. All thought that Tamanna passed away. Basavaya was happy for a short time. Then he didn't find any reason to live, so he passed away too, without vengeance. Man can't find any reason to live, and Tamanna also forgot all his songs. Third one, Tamanna turns reflective in the course of his life. What does this tell us about human nature? Man is never satisfied with his lot. Anything you have is not sufficient. He craves for more. He becomes greedy. He doesn't tolerate others' prosperity. He longs for what he doesn't get, yet he pines for it. If we come out of this, we become gods. But we don't think that is our goal. Instead, we live for some kind of unbearable vengefulness. Without it, there would be no reason for his existence. Tamanna knows this human temperament, yet he succeeds in its manipulation. Basavaya passes away when he learns that Tamanna is no more because he doesn't find any reason to live. There's no competition. Tamanna becomes reflective in the end because he forgot all his songs and ballads. He becomes a non-entity, non-existent. He says that after a particular age, man loses his name because his age becomes important and his name vanishes into thin air. He says that man is so complicated that till the day of his death he goes on living for some revenge or the other, confronting one challenge or the other. That is the third one. The fourth one. How does the reference to Russia and America provide another dimension to the story? We all know that Russia and America, what kind of rivalry they had and they still have. So we know that. So what is the dimension that is provided here? What is the perspective it has given? Russia told America, I am not your enemy. I shall not wage a war against you. Russia declared that it is America's friend. America, being the sworn enemy of Russia, went in agony and boredom. America did not think of waging the war because it did not find any reason to fight because of Russia's declaration. Similarly, Tamanna went on manipulating without exposing his enmity openly. Basavaya also didn't take drastic step but only went on collecting material wealth. At last, Tamanna came to the conclusion that his death alone could destroy Basavaya. So he left the place quietly. But Basavaya he didn't find any reason to live. So he passed away. So this is a story, and this is the story where the dimension of America and Russia comes into picture. The last one, fifth. Observe how the story employs multiple narratives. How does this technique unveil the mystery of human relationship? At first we notice that P. Lankesh meeting an old man and narrates about him. Through this narration, we understand the character of the old man. When the owner's wife becomes apprehensive, the old man, Tamanna, narrates a story about himself and Basavaya bringing to light the various aspects, many facets of human personality. He goes on unveiling the mystery of human relationships, that is, taking vengeance, that's revenge, manipulation, living with supporters, grabbing forcibly, imitating without any gain, and undergoing humiliation, insult. So we notice the multiple narration towards the end. Tamanna becomes reflective and tells the end of enmity or rivalry between himself and Basavaya, because enmity takes us nowhere. So it's better to make peace. So these are the question and answers of comprehension 1, 2 and 3. And to just give you another aspect of why vocabulary and why antonym is important, the next one, if you look at it, we have the antonyms. Antonyms can give richness in your language. Antonym means opposite words. So this is something that you would have in your exam. Impoverish. Opposite is enrich. Impoverish is poor. Enrich is to become rich. Elaborate. The longer ones. Concise is the shorter ones. Petty. Petty means silly. Grand is very big. Grand. Suffused. Removed. Suffused to include. Removed to eliminate. Lethargic, lazy. Opposite is active. You also have active and inactive. Annihilate. That is to destroy. Okay. Preserve. To continue with it. To take care of it. Vengeful. Revenge. Benevolent. Somebody good. Agony. Pain. Ecstasy. Joy. Flourish. To come up. Languish. To go down. To not progress. Wealth. Richness. Poverty. No money. Famous. The opposite also is infamous. You also have another word which is obscure. Cruelty, kindness. Best, worst. Enemy, friend. Stiff, flexible. So do we see that? These are all the words that would increase your vocabulary, and you must be going through all of this so that you would be able to enrich your vocabulary, your glossary in your lessons, in your writing habits, and also in your speaking skills. Let me quickly do the last part of it. What do the following expressions from the lesson mean? In a flash. What do you mean by in a flash? So that means suddenly or immediately. For example, in a flash, I decided to go to the market and get something fresh. So in a flash, you decide something. In a flash, I decided to go to the college. Okay? So these are the ways you use that. Flesh and blood. Flesh and blood means kith and kin. Okay? Flesh and blood. So there are so many people in the world who work in the same organization who are the flesh and blood, which means they are related. In organizations, there could be brothers and sisters, there could be cousins, there could be known people, acquaintances. So flesh and blood, which means relatives, kith and kin. Okay? Out of hand, beyond control. This pandemic has created out of hand situations, which means which is beyond the control, which is just not in anybody's hands. That is beyond the control or out of hands. Next, the fourth one, vanish into thin air, which means disappear. Right? The man who didn't clear the interview vanished into thin air, which means he didn't clear the interview. So the moment somebody said he is not through, he immediately disappeared. He felt a little embarrassed and he disappeared. So do you see that? How beautifully you can use all these expressions in your sentences. So when you use such expressions in your answers, if the total marks would be 4 marks, you would at least have 3 or 4. Even in certain situations, The evaluator will give you full marks provided the sentence structures are correct, the content is correct, the grammar is correct, and if you are able to use such phrases, such idioms, such expressions, because it gives richness to the language. So continue practicing this and continue doing all the good work that you're doing, and I'll see you next time with my next segment and lesson. Thank you. Till then, take care. Have a good day and bye-bye.